stand by for action.
Thanks, Joni. My name's Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I'm including my awesome American with the main story this time, because most of the time, for every plus, there's a minus. For every positive, there's a negative. And for every is, there's an is not. This was brought to my attention by Allison Culver, who many of us in some very good show chat rooms know as Rockstar. Let's start with a column by Bill Clark for the Columbia Daily Tribune, dated June the 30th, 2017. Headline: Old Clark has run-in with the law. After over 3 million miles of driving and using my turn signals religiously, Old Clark was pulled over for not signaling a right turn, giving me a chance to better understand how minority motorists feel when they are pulled over for the most trivial reason, or no reason at all. Here's Old Clark's story. The intersection of Grace Lane and Lake of the Woods Road carries a heavy traffic load on major subdivisions all the way south to Highway 63. Cars on Grace Lane can go either left or right at Lake of the Woods, where traffic does not stop. It can be a very dangerous corner. On one recent evening, I left my gym half a block south of the intersection, and upon reaching the stop sign, I stopped and remarked to myself that I couldn't believe there was no traffic in either direction. There was only a car a block behind me. My stop had been total, not rolling. I turned right and headed toward Interstate 70. Within 100 yards, red lights flashed behind me. I pulled over to allow an emergency vehicle to pass, stopping in the intersection with Bull Run Drive. Then I realized the lights were for me. I was now blocking traffic onto Bull Run, so I rolled slowly forward to a shoulder wide enough for both vehicles. The move made sense. Wrong move. I'm lucky I didn't get shot. Sirens wailed, and when I stopped, 2 officers were out of the sheriff's vehicle. When I reached over to turn off the radio and then take my wallet out of my pocket to produce the driver's license and insurance card, I realized my hands were not at the top of my steering wheel. Danger lurked, and official arrogance was to follow. I had no idea why I had been stopped. I rolled down the window, and when the sheriff's deputy approached, my question was, why am I being stopped? Because you didn't use your turn signal back at Grace Lane, and she added, and you don't move your vehicle when we stop you. Hey, I was blocking a major intersection because I thought you were an emergency vehicle and traffic couldn't move. No answer. After surrendering my license and insurance card, here came the lecture while the second officer stood guard. Then I asked the question. I normally am very good about using my turn signal, I said, realizing that the deputy had probably heard that excuse too many times before. Tell me, just how did that infraction interfere with the flow of traffic, since there was no one except you behind me? How did I endanger others? What did I do to compromise the safety of others and the flow of traffic? The answer: you didn't use your turn signal. If you don't agree, plead not guilty. Why bother? It would be me against 2 officers. If they said no turn signal, the cost of the ticket would be increased. I said, give me the ticket. If you say I'm guilty, I'll be guilty. I felt a warning would have been sufficient. Now I'm charged with a moving violation, though I was stopped by the deputy's admission. I have no idea what the fine will be, because there is no listed fine for not using the turn signal. I had to call the Fine Collection Center in Jefferson City. The service agent there couldn't tell me the fine because they had not received a copy of the ticket a week later. You tell me how this operates. Now a note for the deputy and her standby partner. I was not wearing a seatbelt at the time, and that is a more serious offense. And when the two officers turned off their red lights and pulled back into traffic on Lake of the Woods Road, they did not turn on their left turn signal to let traffic know they were changing from the shoulder to the right traffic lane. Whatever fine I pay should be less than what these sheriff's deputies should pay. I was at least stopped when I allegedly violated. I can fully understand how easy it is for police to make random stops. I have a rear bumper full of liberal bumper stickers and a dent. My car is old, with 425,000 miles, which probably makes me an aging hippie with a weed habit. So why not pull me over? I've just come to appreciate even more the words of those minorities when they speak of harassment and police arrogance. I had a good dose of arrogance on this evening, and in my rearview mirror, the image of the second officer out of the car, his hands ready in case I made the wrong move, my life seemed to be in danger. I fully understand how a person can lose their respect for law officers. When you are in the shoes of the minority, you learn a lot more about their journey. Excuse me a second, guys. Sorry about that. So there you have it. Bill Clark's tragic story, knitting him forever with the downtrodden minorities of the United States of America, all living in fear 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they know law enforcement officers are ready to pounce on them at the slightest provocation. There's only one problem. Mr. Clark's harrowing experience, as it turns out, is described somewhat differently from the way it really happened. That's explained in this article, published July the 5th, 2017, by Blue Lives Matter. Headline: Newspaper columnist writes he almost got shot on traffic stop, then sheriff releases video. The subhead here: Boone County Sheriff refutes Columbia Daily Tribune column by Bill Clark. Boone County, Missouri. When Columbia Daily Tribune columnist Bill Clark wrote a piece attacking the Boone County Sheriff's Office, claiming, "I'm lucky I didn't get shot," on a traffic stop, Sheriff Dwayne Carey released video of the traffic stop which shows the truth, and the video can be found in this article. Bill Clark wrote the piece for the Columbia Daily Tribune, and the newspaper editors apparently approved it. In addition to claiming that he's lucky he didn't get shot, he claimed that he now knows how minority motorists feel, and that he was subjected to official arrogance. The reason for the stop was because Clark hadn't used his turn signal. However, Clark suggests that the real reason for the stop was because he had an old car with a lot of liberal bumper stickers and a dent. In the article, he claimed that he pulled over to yield to the police car, assuming it would pass. When he realized that he was being stopped, he took off in order to avoid blocking the road, prompting the arrogant deputy to ask him not to drive off during a traffic stop. Bill Clark even finished off his article by saying, "I've just come to appreciate even more the words of those minorities when they speak of harassment and police arrogance. I had a good dose of arrogance on this evening, and, in my rearview mirror, the image of the second officer out of the car, his hands ready in case I made the wrong move. My life seemed to be in danger. I fully understand how a person can lose their respect for law officers. When you are in the shoes of the minority, you learn a lot more about their journey." When Sheriff Dwayne Carey found out about this, he investigated. What he found was a normal traffic stop for a driver who failed to signal their turn. In part of his rebuttal statement, he says, The female deputy has been with our department for about 3 years. Not only does she serve citizenry locally, but she also serves our country as a member of the military. She recently returned from a 10-month deployment overseas. The male deputy is a field training deputy. We always have our deputies returning from military duty ride with a training deputy for a few weeks after they return. It is a good practice, as it allows the returning deputy to get back into the swing of civilian law enforcement and feel comfortable doing things such as making traffic stops. Our department receives a lot of traffic complaints from residents on Grace Lane. One resident in particular, we are often criticized for not working traffic enough on that road, i.e. a good place to go work traffic for a deputy needing to make traffic stops. Now to the play-by-play. Old Clark turns right on St. Charles Road off of Grace Lane. He doesn't use his turn signal, which is the probable cause for the traffic stop. The female deputy, who is driving, activates her emergency lights to get Old Clark to stop. Old Clark gets to the intersection and clearly steers his vehicle to the right as if he is stopping for the deputy. You can hear the deputy put the patrol vehicle in park. You hear the deputies release their seat belts, and the female deputy notifies Joint Communications of the stop location and provides the license plate. Pay attention to the intersection light as it is red at the time. You will also see a four-door Ford truck pull up next to Old Clark's Toyota, occupying part of the driving lane, thus his vehicle is not blocking traffic. As the deputies begin to exit their vehicle to approach, the intersection light turns green, and there goes Old Clark, cutting in front of the Ford truck. In the law enforcement world, that is an indication that the driver is going to flee. This is the reason for the audible siren. Old Clark does pull over, and initial contact is made. In his column, he indicates, "I'm lucky I didn't get shot." There is never a weapon drawn. The deputies don't take a position of cover. There are no loud verbal commands, no panic, or anything else for that matter, by the deputies. Would you agree this is sensationalism at its best? I say yes. Did you ever see a point where Old Clark's life was in danger, other than when he cut in front of the truck? What about that good dose of arrogance he received from the deputy who addressed him as sir and thanked him numerous times? How was he in the shoes of minorities as an elderly white male? Was he saying minorities don't follow traffic laws? Or was he saying they are argumentative when stopped by law enforcement? I don't know, but Old Clark was guilty of both. If you believe this is how minorities are treated, then minorities can be assured from this video that they will be treated professionally by Boone County deputies. You can see the video of the mundane traffic stop below. Warning, it's mundane. Now guys, I'm going to drop the audio from that video in here, but the sheriff is correct when he says sitting through the overall video is boring. The whole thing is about 11 minutes and 32 seconds long, so I've edited it down to about 5.5 minutes. The part that you don't get is basically the deputy sitting in her car, I'm assuming waiting on response for a standard wants or warrants search. But as much of the rest of it is there, including all of the relevant, pertinent information, and a little more besides. Give it a listen and decide for yourself. Or you can visit Blue Lives Matter and actually see the video yourself. Here's that audio.
vehicle run at St. Charles with Boy Mike 1-8 Henry. Boy Mike 1-8 Henry. Whoa, where are they? Look. Okay.
5448 comes back to an 02 Toyota passenger vehicle to a Clark Williams out of Columbia.
Copy. Hey there, I'm Deputy Martin with the Boone County Sheriff's Department. Can you put the vehicle in park for me? Got it?
Do what?
I'm Deputy Martin with the Boone County Sheriff's
Okay.
Department. Your reason your stop was for failure to signal. Do you have your driver's license and your insurance on you?
Failed to signal.
Yes, sir, when you were turning right from Grace Lane.
Did I stop?
You did stop, but you did not turn signal. Use the turn signal. This is just the same amount as not stopping. Thank you. Do you have your insurance as well? Thanks, sir. All right, I'll give this back to you. You wait in the vehicle for me, okay? I'll be right back. All right, Mr. Clark. So here's a citation for failure to signal when turning right. All right, I've got your information right here. Can you take a look at this? Your information right here. It's going to be sent to the Fine Collection Center. It's due in 30 days, and you just send it in this envelope if you choose to pay by mail. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry? Is this supervisor?
Yeah.
No, he's not a supervisor.
So he's a teammate. He's backup.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My question is, what did I do to put other people at risk? I know that I did not signal right. I'm on T road. Nobody coming to the left. Nobody coming to the right. I make a dead stop, and I turned right.
Yes, sir, you
There
did
was
a great
nobody else on the highway.
There's nothing to argue about, okay? Failure
There
to
is
signal
nothing
is...
to argue about.
Okay, well, if you want to go to court, that's
I
completely
probably
fine.
will.
Okay.
Give me the thing.
Well, I'm not done explaining it to you. Okay. Like I said, here's your vehicle information. Here's your information on the top. Okay. Do you have any other questions for me? Okay. One more thing I did want to address is whenever you get pulled over, you stop until we tell you to move
You know
forward
what?
otherwise.
I hadn't done anything wrong at that point.
Failure to
I pulled
signal.
over for you to go by me. I thought you were on a mission.
You failed to signal, sir. That is just as much of a violation as anything else in
Give me
my
the
book.
ticket.
Right there. Thank you.
That's okay. I'll head over and get you, sir. 470, I'll be clear. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Clark seems to hang a lot on his opinion that he was not endangering others, saying that he saw no other vehicles approaching and that he was driving safely. and trotting out that old tired excuse, "I've driven this many miles for this many years, blah-de-blah-de-blah." Now to tell you folks, as the unpleasant blind guy, I may have never held a driver's license, but God knows I've heard that one before. And you know what else I've heard? Many people who have been legally driving for years and decades, talking about how they barely avoided this accident or that accident, or occasionally how they got in this accident or that accident because someone came out of nowhere. Never having held a driver's license, I at least know one thing. Use of turn signals isn't just a regulation that's there to be a regulation. It's there for a purpose. Because unless y'all ain't telling me something, no one has 360-degree vision. The normal angle of vision is 180 degrees, or a little less depending on the individual. The only person that I know of with 360-degree radar sense is Daredevil, and he's not even a real person. And if he was, he still couldn't get a driver's license because he's blind. People, you'll hear me in show after show talk about how regulation for its own sake is one of the banes of humanity. But simple traffic laws are there to protect the safety of everyone. And I understand that Mr. Clark may want to empathize with ethnic minorities, but he's not one, and he never will be despite his apparent longing to be a victim. People, the tension between our law enforcement officers and our public has been strained enough by race pimps and their enablers in the fake stream media. I did this show because it's a great example of the misrepresentation of our police that's out there. The projection of the deeds of a few bad officers onto all of the rest darkens the reputation of all of those who have chosen to put themselves between us and those who would do us harm. You've read Mr. Clark's article, and you've heard the audio. And I think from that, you can understand why I say that Boone County, Missouri Sheriff's Deputy and U.S. military veteran Martin is an awesome American, and columnist Bill Clark is not. And that's it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.
The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2017. Anno Domini.